Have you ever been asked the question, what would you do if you had to choose between being paralyzed and dying? When I was 28, I got very sick very quick. I was in ICU and I was told I was going to die unless I had surgery that would make me paralyzed. The extent and the severity of the paralysis was unknown. That was in 2015. And for years I have faced pressure from peers, friends, family, and even strangers to share my unique story. I'm not here to talk myself up. I'm not here to tell you how to think. I do not want sympathy. I'm just sharing raw, vulnerable memories, hoping someone, somewhere out there, can get something out of it. So, welcome to my first episode. This is my memory from the 13th of August 2015, waking up from surgery after the biggest fight for my life. I tried to open my eyes, but they felt so heavy. My chest felt different. Something was down my throat. I heard a voice. It must have been the nurse watching over me. She must have seen my eyes flutter. "Don't breathe," she said so calmly. "The machine will do it for you." I realized I was not breathing in my own air. A machine attached to a tube down my throat was forcing air in and out my lungs. I wasn't breathing. The machine was breathing for me. "Just relax," she said. "Don't breathe." How ironic, I thought. Waking up to this is anything but relaxing. I felt overwhelmed, but I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything about the adrenaline rushing through me. The adrenaline rush was not from shock, fear, or sadness. I was happy, I was excited, I was pumped. The adrenaline rush was because I was alive, I had survived. I felt so much emotionally that I didn't even realize that physically I couldn't feel anything. My eyes finally opened to see nurses and doctors rushing over. I was still taking in my surroundings, a dark medical room, beeping, blinking equipment, people everywhere. Then, an approaching nurse placed her hand on my arm. She smiled. I watched her hand as it touched me. Her skin was on my skin. I even saw my arm compress as she touched it. Yet I felt nothing, not even the warmth of her hand. I tried to sense the weight of the blankets on my body, nothing. I tried to move my legs, nothing. I tried to move my arms, nothing but a slight flicker from my right arm. Just like the surgeons predicted, I was paralyzed. I wanted to say I can't feel. I wanted to say I can't move, but I couldn't speak with the tube in my throat. I could only moan, so I moaned. Surgery went well. You're on a breathing machine. Don't try breathe, just relax. If you start to choke, it's okay. It's just saliva. The nurse will suction it out. Someone said. I think it was a doctor. The doctors looked at the surrounding machines and walked away. "It's 2 a.m. Go back to sleep," the nurse said. I wanted to say I was paralyzed. I couldn't. I moaned, I choked, she suctioned, she told me to go back to sleep. I tried to sleep. I couldn't. I was too excited. I figured if I never walked or breathed again, at least I was alive. I will make the most of it. And I will still be happy. I wanted to tell them. I moaned, I choked, she suctioned, she told me to go back to sleep. This repeated again and again, and I was hoping she would realize I was trying to say something. The nurse's tone changed from soft and calm to frustrated. Eventually, the adrenaline from pure life wore off, and I drifted off to sleep, letting the machines fill and empty my lungs with air. Around 4 a.m, I woke to a team of doctors around me. They wanted to see if I could breathe without the machine. They had a trolley ready with equipment in case I couldn't breathe to incubate me. I was warned I might need a tracheotomy after the surgery. They stood ready for action as the tubing was pulled out of my throat. After being told, don't breathe, just relax. When I took my first gasp of air, they relaxed. I relaxed. I could breathe on my own. No machine. The doctors started asking questions, shining lights in my eyes, explaining how the surgery went, but it was all a blur. All I remember was looking up at the ceiling while the doctors poked and prodded, asking again and again, can you feel this? To which I always answered no. They asked me to wriggle my toes. I stared at my toes. The crowd of doctors and nurses around me stared at my toes. The room was silent, but inside I was screaming, please toe, please move. My toes were still a stone, not even a flicker. We all knew what that meant. Everyone was silent. I don't think anyone wanted to be the first one to say those words to me. A sentence that some people fear hearing more than they fear death. Instead, they just looked at me. They knew I figured it out. I knew I was paralyzed from the neck down. Eventually, someone broke the silence. It's 4 a.m. Get some sleep, he said. The doctors walked away. My nurse looked over the machines. I took a big breath in and out. The fight to survive was over. I was going to live. Now it's up to me and how hard I work at recovery and how I choose to make the most of my life. I drifted off to sleep, my lungs filling and emptying with my own breath.